All right, one of those days where I am tired as hell, but who cares? So I'm thinking it's really good. I'm gonna call this like I don't know, the bad video series or like the bonnet series, or as I like start out this process before I get into all the charts and everything. Think else. Yeah, I think it's the repetition of me understanding content creation and how to pretty much build up to that level of like a real like a really high production content creator where I can just produce, and I can understand like the YouTube algorithm way and how to structure a video and such where you have like the intro, it's all fancy and everything, it gets your attention and everything, and then after that it's just hit after hit that is hit after hit after hit that is just makes it so good. But right now I think I say I'll probably do this to like close to Christmas before I start really putting the pain on myself to like make like fantastic content. But I need to get used to speaking to people and I like explaining myself because ideally explaining my thoughts in a way because ideally if you can't explain it to a baby you don't know it well enough, and holding myself to that regard as that statement, it definitely does put pressure on myself because ideally if the channel really does take off, I'm gonna be speaking to a lot of people and a lot of people are gonna be taking my advice. So ideally I need to practice communicating and speaking and on a high level. So practice makes perfect. So let's see which tab charts are in. Oh, this computer, like, I don't even know how to work it myself. Shit. Like my stuff just vanishes. So wait, it's not even. Fuck. I swear this thing ain't worth the shit. Boom. Okay, so so in the last video, I pretty much spoke about how this is like a pretty good buy on Bitcoin. And I mean, from an investing point of view, so from an investing point of view, I do have a very long term out point on Bitcoin. I do believe Bitcoin will hit $1 million in the future. Is that anytime soon? Hell no. Um, but when it comes down to things as viable as Bitcoin, I this thing is on sale right now. Um, And ideally, so the prediction was we'll probably hold 105. I was wrong. We broke down to 103. But well, for whatsoever reason, so the market doesn't care what I think, and it also doesn't care what you think either. That's why we manage risk. And pretty much, I'll say my thesis is this: if we cannot hold this, so we have the bear trend. Buyers both try to break 115. No price acceptance at this 115. I mean, price rejection, no price acceptance, break of another structure. Uh, almost we broke below a critical level. We found buyers. Now we just had another price rejections, which means we can do something like that. So it is pretty much all eyes on. If we cannot hold 101 to 98 grand, this thing is done. Like you can see this thing like in the 80,000s, which is very great. Look, I want to be a bear on Bitcoin. I mean, like because I can buy more of it. because it's cheaper. Versus, I mean, okay, cool, we make a lot of money, but I rather buy cheap rather than buy high. So that, I mean, ideally, that's my thesis on Bitcoin. Now, why is exactly selling off? I don't know. Um, the exact reason, but I Bitcoin seems to know before the stock market knows. But right now, I'm currently bullish on the stock market, so that's why I'm saying I don't really know. So that I normally when the so I guess we can talk about that. That's really fishy. That the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq probably will make a brand new all-time high this week, and Bitcoin is just not pulling its weight in the market. And could that be foreshadowing something in the future? It could be. And gold is freaking jamming. Gold is freaking jamming. And something like I know about gold is so a lot of big institutional investors and a lot of hedge funds and all these big asset management companies, they what they like to do is to hedge their positions. They'll buy a lot of gold, and then they definitely do this when they're uncertain about the future. So when their investments take a turn to the downside, that and gold goes up, and so part of their portfolio is not dragging as down to where the investors are in their company are too worried or them themselves. So that is ideally. I don't have a picture of gold pulled up, but yeah. But so there we go. So pretty much this is just a this chart is just aligned in a way to outline market direction. So we just have support and resistance right here. I have not mapped out any supply and demand levels. Ideally, you can see them, but I have no clue how to get rid of these damn session breaks, and I don't like having too much information on my charts. I want to keep it simplified and very clean, so it doesn't really distract me. So we had to sell off. I think from pretty much all time high to the low. I believe it's around like pretty much a dip around 4%. Yeah, 4.3%, and then we pretty much made the V-shaped recovery. We broke structure back up to the bull side, and I'm very sure we're just heading up to the previous all-time high there. Um, that there's not ideally too much to say, so I'm just moving on. NQ with the S&P 500 is outperforming the Nasdaq, which is pretty sick. Um, we haven't had that break of structure just yet, but with the S&P 500 having that bull breakout, it's more than likely that the Nasdaq will have a break above 25.7 and 25.8, and then pretty much back up to brand new all-time highs. And yeah, those were the futures. Looking at the equities, the SPY ETFs. So ideally, do keep in mind this gap has to fill sometime in the future. So it would be apparent that the market. Ooh, that's actually very interesting. So what this gap has to fill as well, and that's at all-time high. So I'm thinking the market is pretty much at a indecision level because it has to decide: are we going to fill 687 and fly and keep on going and fill this gap at another day, or are we going to reject this high here and then fill that gap? And that's like how. So look, this is now we start talking about like strategy. So ideally, how can we know that? So look, introduction to actually put this right there. So this is an introduction to like order flow charts. No one's going to see this video, but hey, I'm putting it out there. So ideally, see, okay. So let's just say morning session. I mean, we're pretty much there right now. So morning session. If there is not, if we keep seeing, so this is a volume tail right here. See, there's a lack of volume, which means there's like a lack of volume. Like uh, the buyers are not interested. That is a sign of a lack of volume. That lack of volume is like, hey, this level here is too expensive, and we want to buy at lower prices. So what does that mean? Down. Um, and ideally, if we do reject it, this is also, so this is a footprint chart of like ES, and this is, so I mean, they're both S&P 500. Even though I was just talking about SPY, I just didn't want to confuse it. So if we're seeing a lot of buyers in the market, which means, so let's say we show a lot of volume, but the price isn't like, but the price, so this yellow thing right here, which price, so let's just say boom, buyers coming in, buyers coming in, buyers coming in, we see it on the volume. But if we don't really see price necessarily breaking above that level, that's when you start seeing things like this, like called like just a lack of volume, where it looks like a tail. And then pretty much, what does that mean? It could be, it's a sign that there's about to be a reversal. And ideally, I think, and if we see that at that level, how in the cuss do I pull that back up? Oh, just boom. If we start seeing things around that level, I have to use it. Book map. I think it's a lot easier to see it on a book map on the Defla market. I don't have book map pulled up right now, but just I'm just keeping this video kind of simple. Simple. So if we start seeing things like that, oh, my camera just took a complete backflip onto the ground. But anywho, so I'm thinking if that what happens right here, we could potentially fill that gap. But if we did fill that gap, we're back below. That would be a break of structure. And if there's not a, if buyers don't immediately come in to see things going up, we can see this. But it's a 4% to 5% correction. Normally, once we start breaking below 5, we start going for those 10 for 10, which means we can end up falling to around here, which would be pretty nice. Um, and yeah, I think that's all what I got for now. Yeah, and I will call that a video.